All right, so this is called 5 Reasons to Start a Blog and 3 Very Good Reasons Not to. So I did this because I can give you great reasons to start a blog any day, all day, but there are good reasons not to, and nobody ever tells you what those reasons really are. And so, you know, I believe like open loops are not great things. Like should I start a blog? Should I not start a blog? When should I start a blog? And if you don't have an answer, it's just going to resonate in your brain. So hopefully the facts that I give you today will lead to one of 3 answers, which is yes, I should start a blog and I'm going to do it as soon as possible. Or no, now that I've heard about this blog stuff, it's really not a good fit for what I'm doing and I'm going to move on to something else. And the third answer could be, yeah, it's a really great idea, but just not now. So maybe now that I know a little bit more, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to put it off for a year, right? So I hope that, that's what we're shooting for, that one of those 3 answers are going to be what you're doing. Okay. So let's start with me. There's me. I am, who am I? I am a former librarian. I was a librarian for a decade. So that means I have a master's degree on how to look stuff up. I am a novelist. So that means that I have written those 10,000 words that, you need to become an expert at anything. And I'm a business owner. I am a creative blog writer and strategist. So basically, I help people figure out their blog situation. So that's, kind of what I'm doing today is I ask them these questions and we go from there. So we're going to start with this whole idea of who are you? So there are 2 very different paths to blogging. So who are you is very important. So you are either you're a business owner, you have a product or a service, and you're thinking of starting a blog, or you're thinking of becoming a blogger, which means that you want to start a mommy blog, travel blog, a food blog, and the blog is what you're going to use to leverage to build an audience for yourself. Okay. Those are 2 very different things. They require 2 very different sorts of approaches. Now, you're here today because, and this is slanted towards the first one. You're a business owner and you want to start a blog. So you already have a product and or service that you're into, and you want to use blogging as a marketing exercise. Now, if you are here and you're number 2, where you're like, I really have this, I want to do a travel blog or whatever. This is still good. There's good information in here for you, but I'm not here to serve you. So, and I am so sorry. I need a sip of water. Oh, the joys of being live, right? So those are the 2 things. So we're shooting at you, number 1, but if you're number 2, I think there's still some good information in here for you. So just, show of hands in the chat. Which one are you? Are you number 1? Are you number 2? So we kind of know where we're at. If you wouldn't mind, just letting me know. Okay, so we're number 1 and number 1. Okay, so it looks like most people, yeah, you're a business owner and you're looking to do that. So that's good. I always like to let people know that up front, because there are, 2 different ways to do this, and I always like you to know what we're doing. All right, so let's get started and go for the big stuff. 5 reasons to start a blog. Blogging is huge. I need you to understand this. Are you ready for this statistic? 1/3 of everything on the internet is a blog. 1/3. Think about that. That's like a huge number of things, right? So this is very popular. And for anybody who tells you it's over, it is not. It has not gone anywhere. And there are really good reasons to start a blog. Okay. But you have to know what your goal is. So the first reason that I always like to talk to is to get better at your writing. So writing is like any other skill. You have to do those 10,000 hours, right? To get really, really good at something. And if you have a dream in the future that involves writing for your business, a blog is a really, really good way to get those writing skills going. It helps you figure out how to brainstorm. It helps you figure out whether or not you're a plotter or a pantster. For those of you who do not know what those are and are like, what the heck is she talking about? In writing, generally speaking, we have a plotter or a pantster. A plotter is somebody who sits down and meticulously figures out what they're going to write. They're an outliner. They do all of that beforehand, and they do a lot of the work going into the outline. So the writing is pretty seamless. So the research and all of those sorts of decisions are made first, and then they go to writing. A pantster is they fly by the seat of their pants. So they get this in here, they start writing, they move, right? And these are not absolutes. Uh, I personally, novelist here, I am what I call a pantster until I get about a third of the way into any project. And then once I have a sense of the project, then I take a break and figure it all out. Right. So these are not absolutes. There are a spectrum, but it's good to figure these things out. And if you want to be a writer, like blogging is a low risk way to do that. It doesn't cost a lot of money. All it takes is, your computer or pen and paper, and it will teach you, how to write, how to outline, how, if you do that, how to write on a deadline, how to revise. Revising is huge, right? And for those of you who are like, yeah, I'm going to use Chat GPT, Colleen, if I do a blog, what are you talking about? But here's the thing, Chat GPT, you want it to sound like you. And to do that, you need to give them parts of your writing so that it knows what you sound like. And for those of you who are going to do this, I'm just going to, no judgment. I understand writing can be intimidating. This means you're going to be an editor. And sometimes that's easier. It's much easier when you have a piece of writing in front of you to edit it than to write it from beginning. But if you were hoping for a book in the future, you can't use Chat GPT to write your book. All right. You have to do the work. You have to do the thought. You have to, and that is one of the big ones. So it'll get you better at your writing. The second is it will help you grow your audience. So I did another presentation about me pages, and I did this statistic that in 1960 we took 3 billion pictures worldwide. We took 3 billion, and in 2020 we took 1.4 trillion pictures. And I understand that everybody thinks, oh, you need visuals, and you do, but writing is slow. Writing takes time. Writing is how you build, a relationship with people. And so if you want to grow your audience, doing something that forces them to slow down, because let's face it, when you have the pictures, you are on the next. You're always looking for the new one. You're looking for that dopamine hit, right? Of the like, the share, the move on. And we don't sit with our visuals in a way that we used to, but we sit with writing. We've managed to speed up so many things. We have not managed to speed up how quickly people can read. Okay. So growing your audience is, it's a great way to do that because it gives your audience something that they can really invest some time with on you. So there is a stat that when a person comes to your website, they give you 5 milliseconds before they start making a judgment. That's 0.05 seconds, right? If you can hold their attention for a minute, that is suddenly a very large expanse of time. Okay. The second one is to repurpose for other forms of social media. So let's, consider this. So the thing I love about blogs is if you think about what else you use. Do you have an email list that you're trying to, you have to send out an email every week and you don't know what to write? You can use your blog. Which social medias are you on? Are you an Instagram person? Are you on X? Are you on Pinterest? Are you, Facebook, TikTok? It is a huge thing. There are just so many places you can put yourself, right? But you have to, if you're going to show up, you have to show up. You have to keep putting content into it. Consistency is king in these things, in these spaces. So you have to keep putting things in there. And it's hard to be on the creation hamster wheel. That is, when you are those, number 2 blogger where the blog is the product, you have to post and post and post and post and post. And for those of you who are heavily invested in a social media strategy, it can feel like that, can't it? Like you have to keep coming up with new content and then creating the content. And oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I love blogging because it gives you something to hang other forms of social media on. And that way, if your blog post for a week is about this topic, and you do a reel on Insta based on some of the facts you learned and post that, and then you do a video on it, or you do anything else, or you put it on Pinterest, that means everything's aligned. The blog gives you something to hang everything on, right? And here's the thing, and bloggers know this, 90% of bloggers will use their content over other social media. And this is really important. They will post their blogs in other sources of social media, as well as use the blog to base those social media posts on. And 56% say it is their most important source for organic traffic. Now, why is that important? So there is basically 2 forms of marketing. There's kind you pay for in money, and there's kind you pay for in time. Blogging is clearly the type you pay for in time, right? But you can post it in a million different places and chop it up in a million different ways and use it. And most do. They reuse their web posts or their blog posts 3 to 5 times. Like one blog post can go really far. And so I think it's really important to remember that. Okay. Another one is to showcase your expertise. So this is also about, growing your audience. We're going to be honest that most people are only 75% of people are only going to go to your blog once. And why is that? Because an equal number of people are looking for information. Like they've gone to the internet, they have a problem, they're looking for a solution. They go to your blog, solves the problem for them, and they're done, right? And that's a hard truth, but that is the truth. Most people, it's a one and done situation. But that's okay. You don't want the 75% of people who come one and done. You want the 25% of people who stay and go, oh, let's read this. Oh, I want to be on their list. Oh, I want, to sign up for their email list. Oh, they have this freebie, right? Your blog is going to speak to those people, and it's how you build a tribe. And if you happen to be in a business that is opaque, difficult to understand, jargony, I'm thinking things like law, real estate, um, IT, all of those things that people need help with, but it is, it's not always easy to understand what you're talking about, right? I think we all, I don't know about you, but I'm intimidated when I have to ask a lawyer for help. They have this huge specialized knowledge, and a blog can be a way to be like, okay, I'm going to take this specialized thing and I'm going to make it digestible for the general public. And that is a way you're showcasing your expertise as a way to build trust, right? You're positioning yourself as the expert, but you're the expert who shares, right? You're not the expert who hoards. So one of the things that blog changed once upon a time was that people did do this. They would hoard their knowledge because if they shared it, well, then they wouldn't need you, right? But in the modern world where it is the attention economy, like you have to ask for their attention, you have to give them a reason to pay attention to you. We hate ads, we all do. um, Showcasing your expertise can be a place that this could be really important is if you have a job where there are trust issues. Like, how many used car salesman jokes are there out there, right? That is a business that has a reputation for bad faith players. I have a friend who is a property manager. That is another business that has a reputation for bad faith players, right? But if you blog regularly and you kind of show them like why you're different, what to look out for people who are scamming you, all of those sorts of red flag issues, you're building trust, right? And in certain places, trust is so hugely important, right? Because uh, it is the hardest thing to get and the easiest thing to lose. And if you are a blogger that is honest and authentic and shares your expertise, well, that is a start to building your trust. And then the last one we're going to talk about is SEO. Okay, SEO stands for search engine optimization. So for those of you who have no idea what that is, I'm a former librarian. I know how to research things. So I will attempt to explain it to you in a way that is understandable. So you're Google back when Google got started. And you realize that there's going to be all kinds of web pages in the world. Like, people are starting to see this and you're going to organize them, right? And so what Google wanted to do was to be the librarians of the internet, but with one big difference. Librarians, when we create systems so that you can find things, a human being is the person who looks at that piece of material, whatever it is, decides what it is about, and catalogs it in such a way that you can find it. Okay? But human beings are expensive. It's much easier to program a piece of technology to do what a human being can do. And that's what Google did. They created something called spiders. Spiders go out into the internet and they find new pages. Now, this is the first thing I want you to really pay attention to. Your website is not indexed, which is how they store things, by the website. It's by the page. So if you have your landing page, an about page, a prices page, and a testimonials page, those are 4 different pages, and those pages are in Google's system, okay, as 4 different things. So we're back at spiders. So they go out and they find all the new stuff that has not been indexed yet. but they have to figure out where to put it. Well, if Google's not going to hire people to figure out what a website's about, how do they know? Well, you tell them. You, as the website's owner and creator, tell them what your website is about. You tell them what every individual page on your website is about. Now, that's one half of the puzzle. The other half of the puzzle is Google needed to make money. So they created ads. And they really wanted to target those ads to match up with whatever you happen to be looking at the moment, right? You know, Google is very good at, you look at trips to New Orleans and all of a sudden you got, hotels in New Orleans. Like that's what they do. And so what Google realized that it needed to do was they needed to be like, okay, how are people looking up information? How do they put the information in? So if one of the search terms is you put in, you're like, Google comes on, you're like, hotels in New Orleans, and you put in that search term. Well, what it does is it looks at how every single person who's looking for a hotel in New Orleans looks up that information. Maybe it's hotels in New Orleans, or maybe it's hotels in New Orleans in the French Quarter. Maybe it's French Quarter hotels, right? So there's all different kinds of ways people look things up. And the most common way that they look things up, that's how they figured out how to charge for an ad. So the most common way people look something up, that ad is most expensive in Google because that's going to be really targeted. And it's a complicated thing, and I understand this. So what website people did was they were like, oh, if Google's organizing their ads that way, they're also organizing their pages that way. So if I want to get on a page, I need to start looking at those keywords that they use for ads and put them into my website, right? So that is SEO. So each individual page in your website has its own SEO. So think of it like this, that there is a path to your page, right? And if you have a landing page, a prices page, an about page, and a testimonials page, those are 4 paths to your website. If you're somebody who has a website that doesn't change a lot, the nature of your business is your website stays pretty static, Google doesn't like that. Google wants to see that your website's changing. And so that's why people start doing blogs. It's like, oh, my website is pretty static, but if I do a blog every week, well, that's a new thing that shows Google that my website's active. And you build the SEO. And so suddenly you have more paths to get to your website. That is the power of SEO to help you build a website. And doing SEO plus putting it on social media is huge. All right. So those are the 5 reasons. I understand the SEO thing is very confusing, and I'm sorry. I try to explain it in human being terms. Are there any questions about that? Let's stop here for questions. You can just go off mute or go into the chat. I don't care. Raise your hand. I'm pretty good. Are we good?
Looks like we're, excuse me, good right now as far as questions. But like she mentioned, feel free to put those in the chat. We can have another break for them at the end after our next section. And as Colleen mentioned, this might not be the time to get into all the SEO details, but we do have marketing consultants through the SBDC who you can meet with and talk with them. Totally free, totally remote, and they can maybe help you, especially in Karina's case, better understand or strategize about what kind of messaging you do want to put out there that would be authentic to what you want to put out there, but also fit in with some of the SEO optimization. So just want to put that out there. I'm also going to put a link to a previous recording that we've done on SEO optimization that might be helpful. But looks like we're good on questions right now.
Okay, so we understand why this can be really good for you and your what you're doing, but it's not good all the time, and it's not good for certain businesses. So here are 3 reasons to not start a blog. Okay, let's start with you lack time. What does that mean? So blogging, interestingly enough, there is the great annoyance of, oh my gosh, our attention span is shot, right? Nobody can pay any attention to anything. And there are stats to back that up. The 50 milliseconds to judge a website. There's a stat that says 43% of people will give your website 2 seconds to download. And if it's more than that, they're gone. So, I mean, there's a lot of evidence that says we lack patience. But one of the grand ironies that is happening with blogging is that while we seem to lack patience, blogs keep getting longer and longer. So, in 2014, the average blog post was about 800 words. Okay. Last year, in 2021, that's 2 years ago. I apologize. 2021, it was a little over 1,416 words. Okay. And so granted, like it's, most blog posts are somewhere between 750 and 1,500 words. So, but on average, that is how long a blog post is. And that takes 4 hours approximately to write.
Yeah.
And if you are not a writer and you're new to this and you're trying to figure it all out, it's probably going to take you a little bit longer, right? And then you also have to find pictures. Now, there's plenty of free pictures available on the internet, but there is a stat that if you have pictures every 75 to 100 words, that increases the amount of time it's shared across the internet. So you need the visuals. And hey, maybe you're also going to do a video. Well, are you going to shoot the video? Are you going to edit the video? So you've just added a lot of time. And do you have the time to create this content every month, every week? And so the other thing that you need to realize is that is the average. But here is the other, one of the ironies of the internet is we have no patience, and yet the longer a post is, the better it's shared. So if a post is somewhere between 3,000 and 10,000 words, it's going to be shared much more across the internet, about 33% more than a shorter post, which I find amazingly fascinating. But hey, we human beings are contradictory creatures, right? We are. It is, so obviously a 10,000 word post is going to take a heck of a lot longer than that 4 hours. So it's a balancing act, right? Do you have the time to do this? If you're like, I'm going to hire somebody, and hey, most people do. I get it. Do you have the time to find the right person? Do you have the time to go to some of these sites like Fiverr or whatnot? Or, if you have somebody, like I have people that I know that can link you up with writers who are in your niche, do you have the time to interview them? And you're going to have to, they're going to hand you a piece of writing. You still have to put it up. You still have to add the pictures. You still have to do this. So even if you are not writing it yourself, you still need to take some time. And that includes if you're going to use good old Chat GPT. Once again, I'm not, I understand some of you are going to do that, but now you're an editor. And do you have the time to sit there and edit it? And here's one thing, and ChatGPT says this on their front page. And so, and it's real, and Bard does too. You need to check every single fact in that piece of writing. Why? They don't guarantee that anything in there is correct. They don't guarantee any year, any spelling of a name, any historical. Why? Because once again, this is the way websites are cataloged. Google brings up things not based on accuracy, but popularity. And I think we all know the way our country's gone, that popular and accurate in websites. And so they pull up inaccurate information. And so you're going to be spending your time doing something with this writing. And if you don't have the time to do it, then maybe it's a no or a not yet. You know, maybe if you have help and you can afford to spend the time doing this, then yeah, maybe. You lack the patience. Blogging is a marathon. It is not a sprint. Okay. So it takes between 21 and 54 web posts before you see any traction. If you're doing 2 a year, it's going to take you 2 a month. It's going to take you a year. If you're doing 1 a month, it's going to take you a couple of years. Do you have the ability to be patient? Right? Do you have the ability to be patient enough when there's a bright, shiny object in front of your face, not to just like, oh, well, this works better, I'm throwing away my blog, right? It's really important to understand that this is not a tomorrow situation. This is long term, right? There are great benefits to blogging. You can get evergreen content out of it. Blogging is a great first step if you want to do long form content. So many people have started a blog and then started a podcast later on and used all the topics that they talked about in their blog to then like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and talk about them in my podcast. And you don't have to start from scratch. People have looked at their blog and said, okay, these are the ideas I want to put into a book. There is so many good reasons, but you have to have the patience. You have to have the patience to create your blogging plan. And if you need to, it's so important for you to have a documented content strategy, right? Why? Because it tells you what you are going to talk about. It tells you what you're not going to talk about. It tells you when you have a bright, shiny object in front of you, can I make this work with my niche or not? And if the answer is no, you leave that bright, shiny object behind, right? You have to have the patience and the fortitude to be able to make the plan and stick with the plan. And the last thing is you lack funds. Now, the great thing about blogging is it's kind of cheap to get started. Like all of us, most of us have computers, or, the library does. Blogging is, if you have a website, blogs are pretty much included on them, or you can create a blogging site. So it's not like podcasting where, even, you can buy cheap equipment, but you still have to, buy equipment. And you either have to learn how to edit your videos or pay somebody to do it. Blogging has a very low barrier to entry, but if you are somebody who is really, really doesn't want to be a writer, you love the idea of a blog, you love the long form content, you're looking at ChatGPT, but man, you'd really just prefer a writer. You're going to need a budget for that. Okay. You're going to need a budget to make sure that you can afford them. A good writer is going to cost you some money. you're going to need a budget to be able to look up and research the SEO that you want to do. And that there are some free versions of paid ones, but it is not cheap to do SEO research. Now, ChatGPT can help you start that. SEO research can be a complicated thing. SEO research, ChatGPT can narrow that a lot, but you still need to be able to actually see certain metrics in keywords that make them desirable and make good choices. And you need to be able to afford the funds to access those things, even if it's just for like 2 months, where you're like, okay, I'm going to do the research. I'm going to figure out all of my keywords. This is what I'm going to focus on for the next year, cancel it, and then, move on. You have to be able to have a budget, even if it's a little budget. Hey, you need to be able to go buy a notebook and and pens and stuff. And I'm one of those crazy people who's like, I invest a lot in my notebooks and my pens. It is not for nothing. But these are things that you really do need to consider. Do you have the time? Do you have the patience? Do you have the funds? And sometimes, if any of the answers are no or not yet, then maybe it's time to either leave the idea of a blog behind or put it off for a little bit. Okay, so that is those are mine. And so we're going to do questions again. How are we doing? We doing okay with questions?
Yeah, excuse me. Yes, we do have some questions. The first one goes back to the 5 reasons to start a blog, and you talked about it a little bit. I think addressing the issue of time, but the question was, is there a certain number of days you should blog to help with SEO, or days per week? Do you have any guidance on that?
So, unlike social media where there are the popular times, right? Like there are all kinds of stats on when is the best time to post on Insta or TikTok or days of the week or anything. With blogging, it's not about the day, any of that. It's about consistency. So in other words, pick when you're going to do it and be consistent with it. So if you say I'm going to blog every Wednesday, and so by 9 a.m. every Wednesday, I'm going to have a blog up, and you stick to it, that's what you need. So yeah, blogging is about consistency, not necessarily time based.
Okay, great, great. Thank you for that. Um, and then there's a question about it. If you put a blog up, how do you handle when people troll you about that blog, or how
So,
negative things they're going to say about that?
so here's the problem with living in the modern world is if you have an opinion on anything, somebody's going to disagree with you. So here's it can be very tempting to push back. Do not. Kill with kindness. Thank you so much for your opinion. I'm always grateful for what anybody says. And I would, I hope to see you in the future or something along those lines, because what they want is a response. That's all they want. They want you to engage them. And saying thank you is not engagement. It's the end of engagement. That's how you end a thing. You say, oh, thank you, right? That is and it is, you are not you're not saying anything that can come back and haunt you, right? Killing somebody with a kindness is, and I understand that there are people who, like, it seems like you're like, how do you have time to write all that? Like, really, you did, one, you didn't read what I said, and two, you wrote 4 paragraphs, long paragraphs, complaining about what I said. Where, you know what I mean? But you are a business owner, right? You are a professional, and you put on whatever professional armor you have, and you say, thank you for your interest. We'll see, I look for another one next week. And eventually they're going to get annoyed with you because you're not giving them what they want, which is you are not engaging. Okay? So put on whatever armor you have to, say thank you, move on. Okay?
Great. Thank you, Colleen. Yeah, that is fantastic advice. And like you said, who has time for that? To be going back and forth with that. So yeah, always good to just take the higher road and preserve your the image of your business in that way.
Yeah.
So great advice. And then another question from Karina. Can you say a little bit more about creating a blog plan?
Okay. So a blog plan, this is what I do is I help people create a business plan for their blog. So you had a business plan for your business, right? And you did, who your ideal clients were, and you look at your competition, and you did SWOT analysis and all of that good fun stuff, and you put it all together in some sort of document, right? This is what you need to do. So the three main things you need to ask yourself is one, why are you doing this? If you're doing this because actually you do want to improve your writing because you want a book someday, that is your dream, that's a legit reason for doing it, right? Why are you doing it? Second, what are your metrics for success? So everything needs to be measured, right? So is that um, when you post it, if you regularly post your blog posts on LinkedIn or Facebook or Insta, whatever you do, how much engagement are you getting? Is it how is it helping you grow your email list? If that is a specific thing where you're consistently directing people to your funnel, your email list, how is that working? There are ways to track where it's coming from. So you always need to figure out a way to actually document it, because I get it. Blogs can seem pretty fuzzy. It's just like, yeah, put it out there, and if it catches on, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't, right? But you want this to do something. So what gets measured gets fixed or, you know, helps you. And then the third one that I always ask is, what's your competition doing? Like, who are the other people in your general area? And that, profit, for nonprofits, like maybe you don't look at them as competition, but overlap. Who is doing what you do? Do they have a blog? If they have a blog, what are they talking about? What aren't they talking about? And where can you find your place in there? Because um, there is an old saying with entrepreneurship, the riches are in the niches. And that applies to blogging as well. So those are the kind of the questions you have to ask. And for those of you who are like, but I already have a niche. I'm like, yeah, you do, but you also have competitors in that niche. Like, what are they not talking about that you can be talking about, that you're passionate about, or they're talking about, but not from your viewpoint? So if you are like, I noticed that there are a lot of women online who are in their 30s. No shame. I'm in my 50s. There are less of us out there, and we have a different point of view. If you are a person of color, if you are a person who is queer, like, your take on certain things is going to be different than a white cis person, right? Or a person, a white person. So if you can take something that everybody else is talking about, but putting your spin on it, or you can find something that nobody else is talking about that you want to, that's hugely important. And that's going to help your blog stand out. Okay. And then figure out, like, get a documented strategy. So you're going to want a content calendar. I am by nature a planner. I'm just going to be honest with you, right? And I'm one of those people who, and like, people have always joked, like, Colleen, you're on the 6th floor. You haven't built the foundation yet. Like, but I'm always, ahead. And so I like calendars. So once you figure out your niche and your SEO and all of that stuff, it's really easy to figure out a calendar and then stick with it, right? So that is part of it. So and going down, you'll see my calendar if you want more information or want to talk to me. I have a 30-minute anything session, so you can talk to me about anything. So if you want more information on blogs, how it would work for you, if this is a good time, more than happy to do that. So any other questions?
Yeah, there's a great question from Farida about how do you locate your competitors' blog?
Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to think of who your competitors are in general, right? So I'm a marketer, so I'm a content creator, so that's where my thing is. So I'm going to look at content creators in Denver metro area or wherever you're at, and if they've had any sort of online presence, they're going to be there. Go to their websites, see if they have a blog. If you and there's going to be variations, so if you are somebody who has, and think outside the box, like they're not a direct competitor, but they're like beside you, like they're a cousin job of yours. So think about all of the different people who kind of do what you do, and then look it up. Another thing you can do is libraries are great at having databases with businesses. So if you don't know, like I don't know where to start, like get your business, go to your library. You can put in like your website, or not your website, your zip code and your business type, and it's going to list every business that's underneath that in your area, and it gives you a place to start. And then it's just research. You look at their websites, you look at their social media postings. Are they doing really long social media posting on like Facebook or LinkedIn that are for better, essentially blog posts, you know what I mean? And those sorts of things. And basically it's just research. It's there's no easy way to do it. You just have to find the businesses. Some of them, some of them you might not. See if they have a blog. Look at about 5 to 10 posts. See what they're really focused on. If it's really broad or general, and they focus on a lot of things. If it's really specialized, and kind of, it'll give you a sense of it. Read a few posts. See what their tone is. Some are very professional. If you want a more approachable tone, that's one way you can differentiate yourself, is to be like, oh, I'm going to be the approachable person. I'm not going to be as quote unquote professional as they are. Or I have a great sense of humor. I know how to write funny. I'm going to, incorporate that. So it's unfortunately just time and research.
Yes, thank you for that, Colleen. And I am putting a link into the chat right now for the Denver Public Library's Biz Boost program for anyone who is interested in some market research support. They have business librarians who can help you kind of identify what type of markets your competitors are in, where they're at geographically. There's just so much information and different databases that they can help you navigate, and it's free, and you don't have to actually be within Denver city limits. It's a service that is available to anyone in the state of Colorado. You do have to have a library card through the Denver Public Library, but you can do an e-card online if you're not, located close to Denver or something like that. So it's a really great resource that we would encourage you to check out as well.
They do free 30-minute online appointments as well. And show you how to use the databases. So this can be, a blog. If you really are interested, it's going to take you some foundational work to do it, but same with your business. Okay. Any other questions? Are we doing okay?
Yeah, looks like we're all good as far as questions in the chat. Yeah.
All right. So if you want to talk, there is my calendar. And so here's the thing. It's going to be available Monday on my website in the freebies section. I'm putting out my blog workbook. So this is what I give my paying clients, and I'm making it available for everybody. So if you go to my website on Monday, you're going to get the full workbook, which leads you to all the questions that I ask, how I do it, There are, calendars for you to create your calendar in. There are pages for you to figure out the what your blog posts are going to be about. It's all in there and it's totally free. And that's going to be there on Monday. Um, I really tried to get it done before this and it just, life. But Monday, if you're really interested and want to take a look at a way to do it and find out the information, it's in the freebies section. And that is all for me today. Thank you so much. And I hope
Yeah.
you take advantage of this. And Hannah has a whole bunch of other stuff, through her organization. We're here to help. So, Hannah, any final words?
Yeah, thank you so much, Colleen. That was really helpful information as far as blogs go. And that's a really exciting resource coming out on Monday. So we'll definitely be taking a look at that. And yeah, just really appreciate all your expertise on this topic. I will be sending out the follow up with access to all of this probably tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. And if you are interested in scheduling an appointment through the SBDC to talk with any of our marketing consultants or other business advisors to dive deeper into the questions you have specifically for your business and your blog, we're happy to get that scheduled. But I think we can give you 5 minutes back in your lunch hour. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we wish you a great rest of your day.